That's not right. Oh, I'm in the dark. What's up, guys? This vlog is gonna be really weird. I don't exactly know what I'm gonna film or if I'll be allowed to film anything. I don't really know, but if you don't know already, like if you're not, we don't know each other on a personal level, I'm quitting my job on Sunday, September the 2nd, and I'm pursuing my career that I have always dreamed about doing. I'm gonna be a writer. So I've been not with my previous job now for about 4 days. So my last day was September 2nd, 2018. My first day of work was like October 28th, 2008. So I've been there for 10 years. I started out as a cashier and gradually moved my way into management, and that's kind of where I left it. I was going to film at work my last day, but it was just, I felt like I would like cry hysterically or something, and then I didn't. I was emotional on Saturday, like you just previously saw. I was like an emotional mess on Saturday, and then Sunday, which was my actual last day, it was just like at peace with things. I was like, okay, namaste, goodbye. Like I never really like let myself cry on Saturday, but I knew that I was everybody knew that I was leaving 4 months ago when I told them, and that's when when I told my general manager that I was leaving, that's when I like literally had a nervous breakdown and cried in the back office. So I guess I kind of got that over with, I suppose. And I'm a really emotional person, so the fact that I didn't cry on Sunday on my last day was very surprising, but also very telling of that I had closed that chapter of my life and that it is time to move on. This video though, I'm probably gonna cry. I don't know. If I start crying, I'll stop and because it's just stupid. Anyway, yeah, that's basically why I didn't film, was because one, other people at work probably didn't want to be filmed, and that was fine. And two, nothing really happened. It was just kind of like a normal day that ended with them giving me a cake, which was very nice of them. Those people are like like I said, I think I might have said before, those people are like my family. You know, you spend 10 years with somebody, with a group of people, you're gonna get close no matter what. And that's what happened. I mean, I'm invested in their lives and cried with them, I've laughed with them, I've grown up at this place. Like I started when I was 18 years old and I'm 28 now, which is also a big reason why I'm not there anymore. Is there was a moment last year where I just kind of like, and I wish I had the footage. I really do. I wish I had the footage, because I was going to one of the local news stations to do my thing, promote the, I don't want to say what, if you know me, you know where I worked. I don't want to mention it here, just out of everybody else's privacy and whatever. I mean, like, what are you gonna do, fire me? But still. The company that I worked for, I used to do a lot of marketing for them, and I would go to news stations and I would basically promote the business during specific times of the year, a lot of times during Thanksgiving, sometimes during the summer, most of the time during the holidays. And I was there at the news station just dropping off food for them. A girl walked in, I was in the green room, and a girl walked in with her dog, and I was like, okay. And I was thinking, this particular news station does, they highlight a dog every week, I think, that's adoptable, and I was just like, oh, this is the adoptable dog. He wasn't. He was actually the star of this girl's children's book that she had just written. And I remember I was just like, I have a children's book, and this girl is here promoting hers, and you know, it was just kind of like a come to Jesus moment. Like, Like, what am I doing, basically, with my life? And I came home and I filmed that, and I was just like, what am I doing? And I don't have the footage, I'm sorry, but I never posted it just because it was so sad. So that was like the first big inkling of like, you're not doing what you really want to be doing. So like, I want to preface this next story with the fact that I have been thinking about leaving my job for the past like 3 years. Like, it wasn't just one day I woke up and I was like, oh, I can't do this anymore. In the back of my head, it's been a constant nagging thing. And it's not like I woke up one morning and I was like, I'm gonna quit my job. It was just like that had run its course basically in my life. And the only reason why I hadn't quit 3 years ago or 2 years ago or last year was because Michael and I bought a house 2 years ago. We bought this house, and you know, you don't buy a house and then quit your job. You don't do that. If you're a responsible adult, you probably don't do that. So it's not that I felt stuck, it just felt like this isn't the time to do that. And as an adult, you have to make those kind of decisions every once in a while. So yeah, I was thinking about quitting my job. I had a couple of job offers along the way throughout the years, and I never took them because I was afraid. I'm afraid of change. I have really bad anxiety about change, which is weird because like in the last 5 years, I think I've moved 3 times. And every time it's just like, ooh, like my anxiety levels are just like, ooh. March? Yeah, I guess so. It was March, and I was sitting in the back office at work, and I was counting my drawer. I was getting ready to go home. Okay, my card was full. I don't know what that was about. Anyway, so I was sitting in the back office with Amber, getting ready to go home. I was counting my drawer, and I got a text from my mom. This was in March. I got a text from my mom that she just texted me, "Are you at work?" And I texted her back, "Yeah, what's up?" And she texted, my mother is, I don't know, like, she's a spaz when there's no reason to be, and then when she should be like losing her mind, she's just calm as a cucumber. So she texted me back, Grandpa's house is on fire. I just got a text from someone. So on your way home, can you go there? What? So I internally just freak out, and I turned to Amber and I'm like, I can't finish this. I have to go. And she's like, why? What's wrong? And I told her, I'm like, my grandfather's house is on fire. I have to drive 30 minutes to his house. And she's like, oh. And she was on her phone at the moment, and she turns her phone around and she's like, you mean this house? And on, I think it was Fox or ABC News or something, like our local whatever, she got her phone pinged, and on her phone is like a fully written article with my grandfather's house in the picture on fire. And it says like, I don't even remember what the caption was, like, elderly man is saved from fire or something, 3rd-degree burns and in the hospital, and I just lost it. And I was just like, okay. But my mom had told me to go to my grandfather's house, so I was like, I'm going there. If that's what she told me, then I'm going there. So I get in my car. Before I'm like shaking, and I call Michael because we live closer to my grandfather's house than my mom does. So I thought, and I knew he would be home. So I called him, and he was actually in the middle of helping one of his friends buy another Victory motorcycle. And I was like, hey, my grandfather's house is on fire. Can you go there? And all I heard on the other line was like, oh shit. And then he hung up on me. Or I heard, oh shit, I gotta go. And then he hung up on me. So now I have to drive 35 miles back towards my grandpa's house, and the entire time I'm just like losing my mind. Finally Michael I'm like calling him, and I can't get a hold of him. I'm pretty sure he was like on the motorcycle Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was on the motorcycle driving to my grandfather's house. And finally he calls me and he's like, I'm here with your grandpa. We're at your neighbor's house. Just get here when you can, just relax, everything's okay. And I'm like, okay. I'm just trying to, like, in my mind, understand what is happening. Like, the article said that there was a man at the hospital, and then later to find out that my grandfather has a tenant. I knew that. We all do. My grandfather has a tenant because the house is a duplex, or was a duplex. There was a 2-story house on top of a basement apartment, basically, and the basement apartment had its own entry and mailbox and kitchen, living room, bathroom, master bedroom. It was a basement apartment. His tenant was actually the person who was pulled from the fire and had to go to the hospital. As far as we know, that he's fine. Everybody got out of the house fine. There was also a dog that my grandfather's tenant had. She's fine. Everybody's fine. So I get to my neighbors, who is also like my second mother. I grew up with her daughter from the time I was 4 or 5 to now. So she's my best friend for life, and her mom has like taken me in as one of her own. Like, my mom and her mom are, you know, helped each other out throughout that time when I did live at my grandfather's house. At one point, my family lived in the big house, and then my grandpa and my grandma lived in the basement apartment. But yeah, everybody was fine. So I get to my neighbor's house, and Michael is there, and my grandfather is there in one of the bedrooms, and everybody was fine. That's what I want to stress the most about this story. I wouldn't say anything, like, I would never make this video if anything, God forbid, had ever happened to anybody. Everybody was fine in the end. The house, not so much. So I'm gonna put a video up here. This is the walkthrough of the side of my grandfather's house. The way that we got into the backyard, the side of his house, and then the motorcycle where the fire started. And Michael's there, and then you see kind of like how the fire went up over the house into the kitchen, blocked the path for my grandpa's tenant to come out. Basically, from the front of the house, when I first arrived to the house, there were 8 or 9 fire trucks, 4 or 5 ambulances, and 2 news stations. But the weird thing was, like, the house, like, the facade of the house looked fine. Like, it really looked like just the house. So I got there, I saw all these people and everything running around, but I saw the house, and there literally didn't look like anything had happened other than the fact that there were like 100 fire people running around. And my grandpa was fine, so I was like, okay, it's fine. It was just probably the living room, or, you know, like, just probably the side of the house. Like, because the house looks fine. Maybe, you know, everything's gonna be okay. It's gonna be fine. So finally, my mom gets there. We're all at this other house, and, you know, we're just kind of waiting for the fire marshal to tell us that we can go back into the house, or not go back into the house, but like get my grandpa's clothes or whatever, because from what I understood, the fire had, like I just explained, the fire had started somewhere in the backyard around the motorcycle. My grandpa had a tarp over the motorcycle. It was a very, very, very windy day that day. He took the tarp off of the motorcycle, and the wind immediately blew it up against the side of the house where the kitchen was and the living room, and the fire just went whoosh up the side of the house. And it's a very old house. Like, the house, I believe, was built in 1973. So what we didn't know while we were waiting to be let back into the house to go get some of his stuff was that the fire had actually spread into the air conditioning air ducts, which runs obviously through the entire house. So all of the rooms basically had to be not demolished, but just basically destroyed. Like all of the ceilings in the house had huge gaping holes in them, and the roof was gone in the kitchen, like just completely gone. Like if you stood at the refrigerator and looked up, which we couldn't even do because we weren't allowed to go into the kitchen, it was completely condemned by the time that we were let back into the house. We saw the sky. So the fire people, they finally let us back into the house, and my grandpa's not gonna go in because he's like having an anxiety attack. My mother's having an anxiety attack. I'm having an anxiety attack, and Michael's eating Del Taco. At least there was somebody sane there, because, you know, my grandfather couldn't deal with it, and my mom and I are just a couple of basket cases running around. So Michael was there, and he was just like, let's go into the house, you know, they'll let us into the house for a little while so we can get some of his clothes. I don't know if you've ever been in a house that's been hosed down, but it's disgusting. Like, it's just so gross. And not just gross, but it's just like, wow, this is ruined forever. So we walk in, and we walked into the front door, and my mom and I just like lost it because okay. Yeah, hold on. Sorry. Yeah, my mom and I just literally started crying like the minute we stepped into the front door. And Michael was behind me. He was like, it's just a house. Like, I can remember him like holding me and like just telling me it's just a house. Yeah, I need to film this. So we have our little like freak out moment, and then we walked up the stairs to his bedroom completely with a fire escort, because they were the ones like, don't go in the kitchen because the ceiling is gonna cave in at any moment. Like whatever parts of the ceiling that were left, there were like beams hanging and stuff. So we go upstairs, and everything is like covered in smoke. Like you can tell like there hadn't been a fire there, but the smoke was just black, and it was all over everything. Later when my grandpa told me, like from the time that he noticed the fire, because he was actually on his way back upstairs, and the mailman, who's been my grandfather's mailman since like I was a baby, knocked on the door and said, "Are you barbecuing? It's kind of early." And my grandpa went back, and that's when he realized that bike's on fire. From that time, from the time of him noticing it to the time that the firemen put out the fire, because there's a fire station actually like literally a block down from my grandpa's house, thank God, it was 6 minutes. So in 6 minutes, all of this happened, and which was like mind-boggling to me. So yeah, anyway, we get what we can of his clothes and stuff. There was a neighbor who was nice enough to like give him clothes, because my grandpa was like ready to go back upstairs and go take a nap. Like he wasn't dressed, he didn't have shoes on, he didn't have a shirt. And then quickly realizing that all of these clothes needed to be washed or just thrown away because of the smoke damage that had been done to them. I remember like we took all of his clothes and like personal belongings and stuff, that we could grab that in that moment, and we put them in trash bags, and my mom took a bunch in her trunk and I took a bunch in my trunk, and Michael was on the bike so he couldn't really take anything. I think maybe we had some stuff in the saddlebags, and then we left. Literally, like, even after taking just clothes that hadn't been in the fire, or in the fire half and downstairs in the backyard, like my trunk literally reeked. Even sometimes now, like, I open the trunk and I could like smell that heavy smoke smell. So everything I think was taken, everything that looked like we couldn't get that smell out of it, we took to, it was taken somewhere and it was like cleaned. But a lot of the stuff, a lot of like stuff from my childhood and my mother's childhood that was up in my grandpa's attic was completely destroyed, like ash, like it's just gone. But everybody's okay. Like, I want to stress that, you know, everybody's okay. We didn't let my grandpa go into the house because he was already having an anxiety attack. Me and my mom were having an anxiety attack, and there's like this stupid moment of like, we got his clothes and whatever, and then we never brought him shoes because we got him like what we could grab, and then we went downstairs and started grabbing memorabilia, like my grandma's teddy bears and stuff that, you know, like means something to us, and then totally forgot about bringing my grandpa a pair of shoes, and Michael was like, you guys are idiots. And then so we went back, we got shoes for him, and that's when I think we noticed that my grandpa had like a huge wall covered in like picture frames or photographs, like this huge entire wall, and all the photographs were gone. And I was just like, okay, well, and these photographs literally span from like the beginning of my grandpa's life to now. Like all of the families, it's like basically like a photographical family tree, basically, of you know, my entire family. And they were gone, like I didn't know where they were. And my mom and I are like looking behind the couch and stuff, and the fire people are like, you should really get out of here. And we were like, do you know where these photographs are? And by that time, the original first responders, firemen, I don't know if there were women there, so I'm just gonna go with fire people. They had left, and the second unit was there to, I don't know, be sure that the fire was out. Like, even after we had left the house, I think or even after the initial spraying down of the house, they sprayed it down like 3 or 4 more times before we were able to go in. And there weren't, I mean, like, to me, it didn't seem like there was fire going on, but they're like, you know, going through what they have to do. And so everything was very wet. It was like raining inside the house when we were finally able to go in. So we're looking for these photographs and we can't find them. Come to find out that there was, when we walked in after everything had happened or whatever, there was this huge tarp over, like a huge fire-resistant tarp over my grandpa's kitchen table. And I guess what had happened was the first responding fire team went in, saw all these photographs, took them all down from the wall, and put them on the kitchen table, and then threw a fire-resistant tarp over it to protect it, which is like amazing. So we have all those. They didn't have to do that. Like, they totally went out of their way to save those, which is crazy, and we really appreciate it. So yeah, so the house burnt down. Let's see. So it's September now. So back to like the original story. I was already thinking about quitting my job. But when that happened, I was just like, I guess that was like the final straw in my decision. I had already started to like formulate, you know, is this what you really want to do for the rest of your life? You went to school to be a writer. You're not doing that. You did that for a little while, but you know, nothing's going on right now for you. And when that happened, when the fire happened, first of all, I came home and I was like, make sure all of our fire alarms have batteries in them, because how many times have I, like, the thing is chirping, I'm just like, hey, shut the f taken the batteries out and then just left it there for days. Too many times to count. Anyway, I came home and I was just like, what am I doing? I owe it to myself to like at least try to fulfill my dream. You know, that was a big part of me taking a step back and being like, okay, what are you doing? And then, you know, also along the years, like meeting Michael, being with him, he's a huge inspiration to me. Like, he came to Vegas with nothing, and now he, you know, he's built his company from the ground up, and which is like so inspiring to me. This, you know, doing film is what he's always wanted to do since he was young, and writing is something that I've always wanted to do since I was like in kindergarten. And you know, he's very like supportive of me doing this. He's been telling me to do this for, I don't know, 5 years since we got together. I don't know. Whenever I would start doubting myself and being like, we have a mortgage, we have this, we have that, he would just be like, just relax, you know, everything's gonna be fine, you're on the right track, or whatever. Honestly, if something like that had happened and I wasn't with Michael, I wasn't with someone like Michael, I would probably just crawl into a hole of depression and, you know, work my 9 to 5 for the rest of my life, and then look back and be like, oh, he did nothing. So he pushes me, but he knows what he's talking about. So yeah, so a month later, I basically went in, a month later, so April? Yeah, I think I went in like at the end of April, right after Arizona Bike Week. An opportunity presented itself for me to write, and to not only write, because there are so many writers out there, but to get paid for it. And I just kind of took that as like the universe telling me go. So I went into work and kind of like laid it all on the table, and that's when I started crying. And you know, because like I said, I've been with these people for so long, and it was emotional. I mean, like, it's 10 years, 5 days a week. I spend more time probably with them than anybody else in my life consistently. So it was a pretty emotional day. But then on my last day, it was just like, I had made peace with it. Let's just say that. And also, on my last day, on Sunday, my teacher, my English teacher from 7th grade came in and had lunch or something. And I've seen her a couple of times come in, but the only reason why like it's like stapled in my mind is because that's the teacher that got me into reading. I always wanted to write, but she's the one who was like, okay, step out of your comfort zone and read this, like, you know, Edgar Allan Poe, and which I would never read on my own because I'm a chicken. And well, like, she just made reading fun, it like really enjoyable, probably because she didn't really go by that reading list you're supposed to go by. And yeah, she came in and she had lunch, and I wanted to go up and tell her like, hey, today's my last day, and it's partially because of you. It's also because my house burned down and my boyfriend really wants me to get a new job. But I didn't. I just kind of, she was there with a huge group of people, so I was just like, But in my mind, I was like, okay, that's another sign that you're kind of doing the right thing. I think a big misconception about writers, for people who don't write or who aren't in the writing community, think that, okay, you go to college and, or maybe for people like not in the entertainment or arts community at all. I guess that spans like not just writers, but filmmakers and artists and editors. You don't just walk out of college and walk into a publisher's office and be like, okay, here's my book. Like, I'm ready. Like, that doesn't happen at all. That's just not a thing. Throughout the years since school, I've been published a couple of times. Actually, many times on various websites and stuff. I didn't have anything in print until this year, like something physical that I could be like, look, I did this. So that was like a huge thing for me. And to actually like show my parents like, hey, look, this is a thing. So I'm just kind of trying to like find my bearings with what I'm doing now, and It's super scary. Don't get me wrong, it's very scary. I watched this video and some guy was like, when a lobster changes or grows, he's uncomfortable in his shell. And it's scary for him, like he doesn't like it, but he knows that in order for him to grow that he has to go through this uncomfortability. So I'm a lobster. And I'm growing. Anyway, the moral of the story is follow your dreams, folks. And it might take some time. It's taken me like 10 years. And it's uncomfortable and it's scary and it's weird because I have to like learn a whole new thing, but at the same time it feels very right. So yeah, that was my very long-winded last day of work video. Jesus, I have a headache. I don't do videos like this for a reason, because they're so long and now I have to edit this huge long thing. But if you do like these kind of videos, these story time / life-changing event kind of videos, let me know in the comments below. I do have a couple of stories that aren't tragic, and if you do like those or would like to see more of whatever this was, let me know in the comments below. And yeah, I guess here's to the next 10 years of my life. Cut to me under a bridge. Anyway, okay. If you like this video, give it a like. If you did not like this video, give it a dislike. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.